Hello, my name is Leroy Blevins. Welcome to Mysteries and Histories. In this episode here, we're going to talk about the Marilyn Sitzman story in the JFK assassination. Now, a lot of people probably don't know who Marilyn Sitzman is, but actually that's Mr. Zapruder's secretary that was standing behind him when he was filming the assassination. Mr. Zapruder was. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play you two videos of her interview, not videos, but recordings of the interviews that she was in, and then I'm going to show you some other evidence and stuff like that to see if she was telling the truth or not. Okay, this is an image right here of Miss Sitzman. Right here, this is an image of her. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to interviews first, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about it.
Secretary Marilyn Sitzman, on the morning of the assassination, joined her boss, Abraham Zapruder, an enthusiastic home movie maker, on the grassy knoll. His film of the passing motorcade was to become the most detailed and gruesome record of the president's death.
We were looking around to see where would be a good place to be. And he looked here and he said, well, this standing up here would be a good shot. But he said, I got vertigo and I can't stand up there by myself. Would you stand behind me and hold on to me? I said, sure, why not? So he gets up here, I get up behind him, and I'm holding on to him. And he started filming about, just before they came around the corner. And we're filming, they come around the corner and start coming down in there, waving at everybody. And then we heard what to me sounded like two firecrackers. It was starting to get a little confusing because you could see things happening in the car, and you didn't quite get what was happening until they got right here in front of us in the third shot, hit Mr. Kennedy right in his head. We knew what happened.
Okay, that was the first interview. Now let's go into the second interview that she's done. Now this was years before. Now this is years after, right before she passed away. This is like one of her almost her last interviews and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and play that.
Okay, then you saw the motorcade turn the corner.
Yeah, they turned the corner and they started coming down. And the first thing I remember hearing are what I thought was firecrackers, because Kennedy threw his hands up, and I heard bang, bang. Now there could have been a third bang. I can't swear to that one. But I know there was two bangs very close together, and I thought it was firecrackers because of the arms going in the air. And it was way off to my left and above. So, I'm just kind of like, what a stupid thing to throw firecrackers. And as they came down, the last shot that we heard was right in front of us. And it was like the same sound, far off and to the left. But I saw his head open up and I saw the brains coming down. So by this time, of course, I knew it wasn't firecrackers. But those were the only sounds I heard.
Now, to clarify it a bit, that would be towards the School Book Depository building?
Towards our left and above.
Which would be in the general area of the sixth floor window.
Yes.
Now, excuse me, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's
You
right.
didn't turn and look in that
No,
direction? You were
neither
looking
one
right.
of us, either Mr. Zapruder or I, turned ever. We kept our attention on what was happening exactly in front of us. And if you look at his film, there's very little jumping. It's steady considering what was going on. And that's why I'm saying the sound we heard, the third sound, still sounded a distance. Because if it would have been as close as everybody's trying to tell us, 20 feet behind us, we both, we would have jumped sky high.
Now you said you did hear another sound.
Okay, after, he fell through going under the triple underpass. And we're both still standing there, and then I heard this crash. And that's when both Mr. Zapruder and I kind of like did the second, or whatever you want to call it. There's a park bench on the other side of the car, the cement things. And they were sitting in a park bench, and they dropped their pop bottle on that cement there and cracked it. That's what kind of woke us up, and that's when we got down off of the concrete. But that sound was like 5-8 feet from us. With that, we did hear, but that's the only other sound other than that far away sound that we heard.
That sound was not close enough to the other shots, though, to be mistaken for a shot, do you think?
No, it was glass hitting
Distinctly.
concrete. Yeah, I knew exactly what it was when it hit.
What is your analysis of the possibility of a gunman, a second gunman, being behind that picket fence?
Well, after looking at the film and doing a lot of reading and others, etc., I would say there's a very good possibility there was somebody back there, but they had a silencer. I don't know who was shooting where, but there was nobody standing behind us that close with a rifle without a silencer on it, because that would have had us jumping.
Yeah.
That
It would have
that
gone
film
right by your
that film
face.
would have been bounced all over the place. Yeah, because literally it would have gone right past our ears.
Okay, you heard the two interviews she was talking about. Now let's look at compare her story to what we see in the films and images. Now here's an overlay of the Daily Plaza. As you see here, you watch my cursor. Right here is where Mr. Zapruder and Mrs. Sitzman was standing on this little retaining wall right here. Now remember, she says her far left and up above. Far left and up above. Okay, when they sit there saying a gunman behind a picket fence, okay, which would be where? To her far right. Okay, to be over to her right. Because they're standing right here. What's to her left? Texas School Book Depository. What's to her right? The picket fence. What's right behind them? Shelter number 3 or the Pelagora here. She always saying behind them. Behind them. Instead of saying no, you're talking about from the right side. No, she's trying to pinpoint. She's trying to be accurate on what she sits there and says when it comes to the location of where these firecracker sounds came from, which was from her far left and up above. Okay, far left up above. Okay, if she's paying attention, they're paying attention to what's going on down here, as she also claims. How can a sound, can you say, well, I tell you exactly where it's come from? It could be coming from the left, it could be coming from the right, or one thing or another. But she says, no, far left and up above where these firecracker sounds came from. Okay, she's pinpointing the location. Just like when she talks about, when they talk about the picket fence is off to her right. But she's never saying to her right. She's saying behind her. Behind her is shelter number 3. As you see right here, which I want to zoom in some more. They're staying right here. Okay, you're looking forward right here. This is her left, and this is her right. What's on her right? This picket fence. What's right behind them? Shelter number 3. What's in front of them? Elm Street. What's to the left? Texas School Book Depository. You see what I'm saying? She's keep on saying back here. Now, remember, she's there. Okay, she is there. And she says, well, there could have been a possibility someone being behind us. You know, a possibility. You know, it's either it is or it isn't. Okay, there's no possibility here whatsoever. Excuse me. Then she's talking about a couple sitting on this bench, which is exactly, she says, to her is like 5 to 8 feet. Okay, they're standing here. 5 to 8 feet will put her right in this location right here. There is no park bench there, as you see here. But she's talking about a park bench that's probably over here on the other side of this retaining wall. But as we see, there is no couple there. Only couple that she talked to and knew of that was by a park bench was the ones that we see in the Zapruder film where she's talking to him before he starts recording Elm Street. We see Mrs. Sitzman talking to a couple over here, which I'll pull this up. She's talking to him over here on this side, right in this location right here. She was talking to a couple over here, all right, before the assassination. That's where a park bench was, and she was talking to a couple there. But she's talking about over here between the wall and the picket fence area. There was a bench there too, and there was a couple there, and that's where they broke the pop bottle. But as we see in the films, and as we see in the images, there is no couple there. There is nobody there, because if anybody was right behind this retaining wall right here, they'd be standing up. Remember, this guy right here starts walking down, as we see in the other images, which I'm going to pull that up in a minute. He starts walking down, stands right here beside the groundskeeper. But as you see, there is nobody here standing. That's in the Mormon photo. Now let's go ahead and look at this part right here, this image right here. Again, as I point out, which let me zoom in some more. Again, as I point out, oops, something's wrong with my mouse today. I got to get me a new mouse. But as you see here, this is what they call the so-called dog man. he walks down, but he stands right here next to the groundskeeper. So he's actually coming down right now. But as you see, there is nobody standing right along here whatsoever. We can even see behind the picket fence. Okay, we can see the tree limbs coming up and the tree branches and leaves and stuff along here. We can see a gap here. We see daylight come through here and here. We don't see nobody behind the picket fence either. But we also don't see nobody standing right behind that little retaining wall, which he said was 4 or 8 feet away from him, which was actually almost, I say, 12, 14 feet away from him. Okay, and again, you see right behind is shelter number 3. So see, her story is not matching up to a lot of stuff that we see in this film. Now, she also claimed that she got on the wall because Mr. Zapruder had vertigo. Again, when we look at this image here, we see Mr. Zapruder over here, Mrs. Sitzman over here. She's not even holding on to him at this point, right here where he starts filming. She's not even holding on to him. Okay, as I point out in the film, only time she holds on to him is when she comes up behind him and starts covering his ears, starting to frame 23 of the Orville Nix film. And you see her elbows extended out while her hands are like this. Her elbows are extended out. Even in the Bronson film, we can see her elbows like this. Then she brings them down like this while she's still steadying Mr. Zapruder's head by covering over his ears, which I point that out. Okay. But here's what gets me. If he has vertigo, as you see right here, which I'm going to pull this one up. I'm going to pull this one up here. This is from the Mark Bell film right here. Now remember, she's supposed to be on the wall with Mr. Zapruder. Why? Because he had vertigo. But when we watch the films, we watch the images and stuff like that, what do we see? We see Mr. Zapruder, Mrs. Sitzman drops down, and then Mr. Zapruder jumps off the wall, which is the higher part of the retaining wall, which he should have went back a little bit more and then got down that way, because it would have been a shorter jump than it would be from this point here where he jumps down and between the steps right here as well, which you can lose your balance as well. And then as soon as he jumps down, he just walks away, as you see right we see in the Bell film. He walks away. Mrs. Sitzman starts walking towards the back where the shelter was, but then she looks over at Mr. Zapruder, and then she makes a U-turn and then goes ahead and starts following Mr. Zapruder, and then she ends up in front of Texas School Book Depository and stands there, which we see her in the Willis image. But like I said, things that she said is not backing up anything that we're seeing. Just like Mr. Zapruder, when his first testimony, he says the assassin was behind him. He kept that story, the assassin was behind him. See right here. According to Mr. Zapruder, the position of the assassin was right behind Mr. Zapruder. Then after the Warrant Commission report come out, that's when his story changed. Okay, just like when I sit there and I go and I tell people and I show people, look at this right here. This is from the Zapruder film. This is the Bush lady turn on the light. Okay, which I'm going to pull this up, this one up, this one up, and this one up. And then I'll pull this up, and this up, and this up. Okay, watch what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this one here. That is the babushka lady. Then we have Mr. Zapruder and Mrs. Sitzman. We have this shot here. Oops, this would be the one shot. Let's go with this shot here first, because this is a shot from the shelter. So let me go ahead and move this so we get all this in frame so I can show everybody. Okay. Let's see this one here. And then we'll pull up this here, which will bring this over here. We'll bring this up here because this is a close-up. Bring this over a little bit more so we can see this. Okay. Then I'll bring up this one and this one. And then we're all set in order. Okay. When we put the time frames and the lineups on all the films and images, okay, here's what we see. Okay. We see the babushka lady turns on her light. Mrs. Sitzman brings up her hands, cover over Mr. Zapruder's ears. Then we see shots being fired, as you notice. This is from the Orville Nix film. This is from the Zapruder film, Orville Nix film, Bronson film, Orville Nix film, close up from the Orville Nix film, Orville Nix film, close up from the Orville Nix film. So you see, I'm not using the Zapruder frames, but they do line up with frames 313 and 330 of the Zapruder film. But anyway, we have the babushka lady turns on her light. Mrs. Sitzman brings up her hands, as you see, frame 23. Now the first shot, which is this frame right here from the Orville Nix film, is 26. So it's 3 frames right before. It's like as soon as she brought up her hands to fire, the shot was fired right from behind them. That was a shot from the window. That's a fatal headshot to JFK. We see the shot being fired. We see the smoke trail from the Bronson film. We see the shot being fired in the Orville Nix film from the window of the shelter, from the window of the shelter. Third window up, third window up. Close up of it, we see the gunman right here with his rifle firing and a smoke trail. Smoke trail, fire, fire. From 2 different films, 2 different locations, filmed from different locations now. Then we have the second shot ringed out, which was right behind him, which was on the side of the shelter, and we got the close-up. We see the gunman, rifle fire, and smoke trail, right behind Mr. Zapruder and Mrs. Sitzman. So we have the light comes on, Mrs. Sitzman covers up Mr. Zapruder's ears, shot number 1 rang out, fatal headshot to JFK, then shot number 2 rings out, and that was a shot to Governor Connally as he was turned off to his left. Excuse me. So you see what I'm saying is when we look at this and we put this and we piece all this information together and stuff, and we look at the stories, that's why I try to tell people. Just like she said, they're saying all that film be jumping all around the place. So let's look at this for a moment. Okay. Now, when I put this together here, I didn't put it like frame, next frame, next frame, next frame, next frame, next frame, next frame. Okay. I went ahead and put in like every other frame and stuff so I get the whole layout of the location. But I want to bring this up right here. As you watch this film, he's jumping up and down all the time, especially right here when it comes to the shots of JFK and Governor Connally that was fired from behind him. He goes with a real big drop, as you see this big gap in between here. Just like when I show people when we look at this Zapruder film frame by frame, okay, he's showing clear frames. We can see it clearly. It was not until frame 313, as you see right here, when the shot rang out right here, then all the frames after that became blurry, and then they clear back up again. And then when the shot rang out from behind by frame 330, they start going blurry again. Okay, so it indicates on something happened right around Mr. Zapruder for his film to jump, like we see in the film, as you see this big jump right here, and this big jump right here, because he's filming, you know, JFK's limo in most of the grass area, as you see here, but all of a sudden there's a big drop, because he should be filming most of the street right here at that point, but it should be, you know, there's this big drop, and then he comes back up, and then there's another big drop, and then he starts coming back up again, and he starts letting it ride normally, as we see in a lot of other spots in the film. So in a certain location, excuse me, in the Zapruder film, indicates 2 shots were fired from behind him in that close range, you know, because of the way he was filming, as we see in here and here. But she says they didn't move at all. He was steady all along, and all she was doing, holding on to him. But we see in the films and we see in the images that she was covering over his ears. We definitely see with our own eyes that there was 2 shots fired from behind him. Okay, now again, like I said, she's indicating there could have been a possibility of a gunman behind him. She said behind him, not behind a picket fence now. She did not say that. She did not even say off to our left, off to our right, because as I point out here, this is the pedestal that they're standing on, that retaining wall. What's off to her right? The picket fence area. What's off to her left? Tech School Book Depository. What's right behind them? Shelter number 3. She did not say off to her right. She did say off to her left when she heard the firecracker sounds. Firecracker sounds. As I point out, firecracker sounds that people's hearing is shots being fired inside of buildings, or up way above the crowd level. That's a firecracker sound. But to hear the bangs, you would hear it here. But like I said, she was covering over Mr. Zapruder's ears. Why did she cover over Mr. Zapruder's ears? Why did she bring her hands up? Because the babushka lady be standing right about here. Why does she brings her hands up as soon as the babushka lady brought her turned on her light? Mrs. Sitzman starts covering up Mr. Zapruder's ears, and all of a sudden shots fired from behind him, as we see in the films and images and stuff like that. She says there was no gunman behind him, but then later on through the years, she says there's a possibility that there was a gunman behind him. Okay, but she didn't say from behind the picket fence. She says from behind them. The picket fence would be off to the right, as I point out here. What's behind shelter number 3. So there's a possibility there could have been a gunman there, but he had to have a silencer on, or that film be jumping all around the place, which it really did jump in certain parts of this film, and it did become blurry, and then it clears back up, as I point out as well. So you see, that's the reason why. And then Mr. Zapruder, like I said in his first testimony, says the assassin was right behind him. Okay, why didn't, when Mr. Zapruder changed his story? Because remember, when everybody talks about Marilyn Sitzman, okay, they never really talk about her first interviews, because she really didn't give that many interviews. Her first interview, I think, was in 1966, if I'm not mistaken. Here's from, in an interview with researcher Thomas, conducted on November 29, 1966, okay, was rediscovered in 1985. All right. She talks about, she's right here. She says a young black couple was sitting on a bench, okay, eating lunch and drinking sodas. Now, how did she know they was eating? She says she's seen them, okay, but when we're listening to interviews and stuff like that, she said there was a couple. Okay, how did she know that they was eating lunch? How did she know they was drinking soda and stuff like that? Because remember, she wasn't paying attention to them. And like I said, when we look at this and we see the stories that's told, and we see something totally different when we view the films and images, okay, we see there is no couple over here. There is no couple over here in that location as she's claiming. We can see that in Mormon photo. We can see that in the films. We can see that in the images. There is no couple there. All right. She says she's seen the couple there. It was a young black couple, which is African American. Okay. Right here, as I point out. Let's see. Right here. A young black couple was sitting on a bench, eating lunch and drinking sodas. Okay, when the shots rang out, the couple ran along the path to the area behind the Pelagora. Sitzman recalls hearing a soda bottle breaking as they ran. Okay, hear the soda bottle breaking as they ran. Okay. Now, if you look at the stockade fence and stuff like that, you're going to see that's a lot of grass area that comes up through there. Okay, the concrete's over by the by the by the shelter part, little section where the steps come in, has concrete, and the rest of it's grass area. Okay, but like I said, her story, they said her story always stayed the same, but she really didn't give that many interviews. Okay, but like right here, it says, I'm almost sure that there was someone, right here, we'll start right here. Mrs. Sitzman stated, this is right, I think in one of her last interviews that she gave before she passed away, I have no qualm saying that I'm almost sure that there was someone behind the fence or in that area up there near the fence, but I'm just as sure that they had silencers. They had silencers because there was no sound. Okay, we're talking about one assassin behind a picket fence now. Now she's saying there's two. Oh, well, more than one, we're going to say. Okay, there was a second gunman. Okay, she changed her story, as you read behind me, saying that I'm almost sure that there was someone behind the fence or in that area there, up there, near the fence. But I'm just as sure that they had silencers because there was no sound. They had silencers because there was no sound. The sound was there. They didn't have no silencers on their rifles. She knew there was two of them behind them. but she's trying to give a little bit of more information, but not too much, okay, for her own peace of mind. Okay, at first there was nobody there, but now she's going to point it to the fence area a little bit or around that location. So she's going to tell us now somewhere around this location there was gunmen, but they had silencers. They had, meaning more than one assassin now, not one. Everybody's always talking about one assassin behind here. It wasn't recently. They start talking about two of them behind here, behind a picket fence. But she sit there and says out of her own words, as you see there, that they had silencers. It was behind a fence or around that area, which could be shelter number 3 is what she's talking about. And she was talking more about more than one assassin than two, right around 2 assassins. So you see, her story changes, okay, as it's told, as it's always told. That's why I said when you go by night witness, you hear them tell their story. It changes every so often. More gets added to it, okay. Like I said, if she's, she's standing there, she's there. And if no shots came from behind, she could be saying, oh, there ain't no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind that there was a gunman behind me or over behind a picket fence, because we didn't hear no shots come from them locations. Or one thing, no, but she says the more as I read or the more I see and stuff like that, there could have been someone behind us. Not to our right, but behind us. And then now it's went from one assassin to more than one assassin that was behind them or in that area, right by the picket fence or in that area. But they have to have silencers on their rifles. So you see, she's indicating for her own peace of mind there was 2 assassins behind them. Okay, because why would sit there, like I said, because like I said, when people talks about something and you're going to pinpoint, well, off to my left, far off to my left and up above, a pinpoint these firecracker sounds. But when someone says, well, right behind the picket fence there, no, there wasn't nobody on to the right of us. She could have said, but she didn't, because that's what's on the picket fence is on the right side of them. She was always talking about behind them. There's no picket fence behind them. Picket fence is on the right side of them, not behind them. But she's always talking about behind them, just like there could have been an assassin behind them. Okay, but they would have to have silencers. So you see, we see in the films 2 assassins right behind them. We see him taking shots from them locations. We see Mrs. Sitzman also covering up Mr. Zapruder's ears. Okay, we see him jumping off the wall. We see in the Bell film, we see him jump off the wall and just walk away like there's no problem, which doesn't sound like somebody would do if they had vertigo. I just want to make this video here, talk about her story. You be the judge whether you want to believe her story or not, okay? Because a lot of people, my opinion, no, because there's no evidence to back up anything that she's saying, and even in her story. And yeah, we know she was there. But this is a story that she made up, so everybody don't know the whole truth about it. So that's the reason why I want to make this video here, to talk about her story. You heard her story. You see there, you can go on Wikipedia and you'll find this information as well right here, as I point out. Okay, there is jumps in the film. There was 2 assassins behind her, as I pointed out, and stuff like that. She's talking about this couple on the other side there, which we could see in the films and images. There was no couples there. There's a lot of things. Like I said, you could piece it together as any which way you want to look at it. You can look at it any which way you want at it. But that's the reason why I don't believe in a lot of stories that's told. If it matches what we see, then I say, yeah, there's truth to it. But if we're seeing a lot of difference between their story and what we're seeing, okay, there ain't no truth to it, okay? There might be a little truth to it, but that's to a point and to an extent, because people can still add even more onto a true story. They can still add more onto it as well. So I want to make this video here to let everybody know this information, hear her side of the story and everything else. So you be the judge whether you want to believe her or not. Don't forget that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. Always in the description down below. You find a site where you can order my book, Evidence of Conspiracy. Only book you ever need in JFK assassination. Thank you, and you have a pleasant day.